Hi everybody, my name is Francesca and I am a flutist and the founder of PlayingWithoutPain.com, an interactive website and social media platform committed to connecting musicians with resources to treat and prevent performance-related injuries and maintain good mental health. I also currently serve as the chair of the Puerto Rico Flute Symposium Wellness Committee, and I serve on the committees of the National Flute Association Performance Healthcare Committee and the Performing Arts Medicine Association Young Professionals Committee. I would like to thank the Mid-Atlantic Flute Convention so much for having me today, and I am so excited to share this presentation with you all on the music educator's role in performing arts health. My primary motivation in creating my website, PlayingWithoutPain.com, came from a strong desire to advocate for performing arts health education to be easily accessible to students and incorporated into music curriculums after sustaining a severe performance-related injury during my undergraduate studies. In 2017, I conducted a study at my undergraduate institution on the prevalence of performance-related injuries and stress in collegiate musicians. I found that 84% of students were suffering some form of performance-related injury or pain that affected their ability to play. Several similar studies have demonstrated similar or higher statistics of performance-related pain or injury in collegiate music students, including an 87.7% injury rate found in a study by Guptill, Zaza, and Paul, a 67.8% injury rate found in a Netherlands study on student orchestral musicians, and a 67% injury rate found in a study by Stanek, Combs, and Murdoch. At the time of my injury, I had to overcome many obstacles because a lot of this information was not readily available. So most of what I learned about my injury was through the help of my healthcare providers and also self-directed research that I have conducted. So although there is a positive trend of awareness growing in the performing arts medicine field, there are still so many students that are suffering from performance-related injuries and don't have access to the resources they need to treat and prevent them. Music educators can serve as a support system for injured students, helping to direct them to healthcare and medical professionals, and designing alternative assignments for lessons during their injury recovery period. They can teach the importance of maintaining good mental and physical health for musicians in class, studying statistics from various studies that I mentioned before, and building breaks, stretches, breathing exercises, and constructive rest teaching into the music curriculum. They can also teach students how to practice in an efficient and healthy manner. And with training in somatic education practices such as body mapping, Alexander technique, Feldenkrais, and so on, they can offer suggestions based on students' playing postures and help teach them ways to play with increased body awareness and a greater sense of ease and freedom. Music educators cannot diagnose students' pain, make specific recommendations for treatment of pain, or offer any form of medical input for injured students. It is helpful to maintain a list of medical professional referrals in the area that accept most forms of student insurance to refer students to in the event of an injury. So keywords you can use when searching for these types of medical professionals can include musculoskeletal doctor and performing arts medicine in the event that you have a performing arts health specialist in the area. I'd like to take a moment to share some of my favorite book recommendations for music educators with you. These books are all great resources with a lot of information on integrating bodily awareness practices into your teaching and methods of preventing and treating performance-related injuries. So the first book is by flutist, body mapping educator, and Alexander technique teacher Amy Leicar. It is called The Breathing Book for Flutists. This has a lot of great information about anatomy, body mapping, and also has a great description of constructive rest practice, which is really important to integrate into your practicing. The next book is Body Mapping for Flutists by Leah Pearson. And this book is great. It has a lot of also great information about body mapping for flutists, as well as specific recommendations on how you can integrate it into your teaching. And the next book is Playing Less Hurt by Janet Horvath. This is basically a one-stop shop in learning everything that there is to know about injury prevention and treatment in professional musicians, but can also be applied to student musicians as well. And finally, there is the book Teaching Healthy Musicianship by Nancy Taylor. And this is where I got a lot of the information for this presentation. So I'll be teaching some of it throughout this presentation, but if you're interested in learning more, I highly encourage you to purchase this book. Common causes of performance-related injuries in music students include a poor sense of body awareness. Body awareness is different from posture because posture is often associated with sitting up straight. Since each body is different, it is better to teach students to sit in balance. This means not sitting too far forward and not sitting too far back. The spine is curved naturally, and telling students to sit up straight may cause them to forcibly straighten their spines. To teach alignment and balance while seated, have students ask themselves a few questions. 1. Are my shoulders aligned over my hips? 2. Are my ears aligned over my shoulders? 3. Are my hands at my sides where I can feel the seam of my pants? And 4. Are my arms relaxed and are my shoulder blades melting down my back? It is recommended for all music educators to have a general level of understanding of somatic education practices for playing musical instruments or singing. You could consider taking a one-day What Every Musician Needs to Know About the Body course, or a few private Alexander technique or body mapping lessons. Another common cause of the development of performance-related injuries in music students is having excessive muscle tension while playing. So a great method of teaching students to learn to play with ease and freedom and prevent tension and gripping, especially in beginning students, is the use of instrument-shaped objects. So I have a rolled up poster right here. You could use a dowel rod, which you can find at hardware stores. You can use anything that resembles the shape of a flute but is lightweight, and the most importantly, won't break if you drop it, because the point of this exercise is to allow the students a safe object to drop if they need to figure out just how much tension they actually need to hold their instrument. So this is roughly in the shape of a flute with no keys, but it's a similar length. So have your student take the instrument-shaped object, and at first you're going to have them grip it as hard as they possibly can. And this is something that you really want to emphasize that you don't want them to do all the time, because gripping is not good and can lead to tension and injury over time. So you can also teach the 3 points of balance in flute playing through the use of this instrument-shaped object. So you have the right hand thumb, left hand index finger, and where it sits on your head joint. So have them grip it really hard and then try and put it up and then try and play and ask them how that feels. And just ask for observations. There are no right or wrong answer right now, and you can guide them through the best method of holding the instrument after this exercise is finished. So you have gripping really hard. Now you're going to have them grip as loosely as possible, and this is at the point where many students will likely drop the instrument or the instrument-shaped object. So that's why you want to use something light and won't harm anything or anyone if it breaks. So have them use a really loose grip with the 3 balance points and put it up. And I even have trouble with this. So just really loose, like as loose as possible. And at some point, some of them just might drop it. So in that case, let them know it's okay. Ask them how that felt. And a lot of them might say, well, it felt scary because I felt like I was going to drop the instrument. So you don't want a super loose grip and you don't want a super tight grip. You want to help them find a nice medium grip for the flute where they can still maintain ease and freedom in their body. So the third time you're going to have them put the flute up to playing position with just enough grip to keep it from rolling or to keep it from dropping. So, and you can do this by maybe having them just place their hand on their shoulder right before, just to invite some ease and freedom. Take a few deep breaths, and then with just enough grip, have them put their instrument-shaped object up. For me, that felt super comfortable. So ask them what they thought of it after they finish that exercise, and kind of talk through the process with them. So gripping too hard leads to tension and it hurts over time. And gripping too softly can lead to them dropping the instrument, which they don't want either. So they want just enough grip to be able to support the instrument while they play. Playing an instrument often feels very unnatural at first, so consider teaching students to learn an instrument as an extension of themselves. With the knowledge of an easier grip, teach breathing exercises, as the ones that I am about to demonstrate, and ask them to notice how much they are able to relax while holding their instruments in playing position. Remind them that they do not need to work too hard to play an instrument and that comfort is priority. Another common cause of performance-related injuries and pain includes long practice sessions or rehearsals and insufficient rest. It is always recommended to schedule a 5-minute break every 15 to 20 minutes of playing if possible. So it can also be helpful to take a little bit of time at the beginning of the semester to teach students some stretches, some basic stretches, and some breathing exercises that they can do, especially when they're feeling overwhelmed. So I've turned my camera vertically so I can demonstrate these stretches for you. The first one is just a basic forward fold like you would in a yoga class, and this can really help relieve upper body tension. So what you're going to want to do is have the student bend from the hip, make sure their feet are hips width apart, so you look down and their feet are underneath their hips. Have a slight bend in the knees, you don't want to lock the knee, and have them bend from their waist little by little until they kind of reach their forward fold limit. And this, they don't have to touch the ground, but just let them hang, dangle their arms. The other option is to hold opposing elbows while you're dangling. You can sway from side to side, you can shake your head yes, you can shake your head no. So you want them to kind of experiment with what feels best for them and hang here for about 30 seconds. We're just going to do a shortened version of this today. And then when you come up, this is important, have them come up very slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, with their head coming up last. So gently bring your head up. Once you're finished, you can have them kind of like shake out their shoulders, shake out their arms. And then you can go through some half neck rolls. So have them bring their chin to their chest. And then gently move your head, lead from the crown of the head. And you're kind of going to go in like half rolls. Tell the students if they find a spot that feels a little bit sticky or is a really nice stretch, they can stay there and breathe into it for a couple seconds. And you should really feel this along your scalene muscles if you're trying it right now. And you should tell your students that they should feel it along the muscle that's kind of like in the back of their neck leading into their shoulder. So you can do 6 to 7 of these. And if they experience any popping or pain, tell them to either stop if they have pain or reduce the range of motion and go even slower. You don't want to go all the way around, as some people lead the stretch, because this can put a lot of undue strain on the neck. So if you have any questions on any of these stretches, feel free to just send me an email. The next one is you can do some shoulder rolls. So I'm going backwards first. You don't want to arch your back here, just some nice easy shoulder rolls. I get a lot of cracking during this exercise, which is normal as long as it doesn't feel super uncomfortable or painful. A little bit of cracking is okay here. So you can have them go like 10 backwards and then 10 forwards. And I think that was about 10. So the third stretch is forearm stretches, and this one is really important to get the form right. So you're going to want to put your forearm straight in front of you, and I'll demonstrate it like this because I think that'll be a little easier to see. So instead of bringing your fingers back, that's going to put a lot of strain on the forearm that you don't want. Take your opposite hand and just gently pull it at the kind of like the back of the palm. Gently pull towards you. You should feel the stretch here. Hold this for 30 seconds and then take a 15-second break. And you can repeat this 3 times on each side for 30 seconds with 15 seconds off in the middle, but I would not advise going more than that. If you don't feel a big stretch, you can always curl your fingers underneath. But if you do, and I definitely feel a good enough stretch right here, you can just leave it. So once the 30 seconds is up, gently release the grip and shake it out. So I'm not going to demonstrate both sides just in the interest of time, but again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll drop my email at the end of this video. And you can also teach it up. So you'll have the palm facing up, facing out. Again, no pulling at the fingers. That'll put way too much strain on the forearm. Come from underneath, gently pull at the palm. You can't really see my arm. And just hold that and breathe. 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off. No more than 3 times on each side. Okay, and don't push it. If you want to only start with like 1 or 2 per day, if it feels really intense for you, just start with 1. But just make sure you and your students are listening to their body and they're not doing anything that makes them feel pain or extreme discomfort. So you can also teach your students breathing exercises that they can implement, especially if they're feeling anxious, nervous. This is a great technique to reduce symptoms of performance anxiety. And it also is just a great method of preventing stress and stress management. So the first one is called Nadi Shodana, or alternate nostril breathing. So what you will want to do is have the student take their dominant hand, the one they write with. So for me, it's my right hand. Take my right hand. You'll want your thumb and your pinky and your 4th finger. These 2 fingers can either press against your forehead or they can tuck into your palm, whichever is more comfortable. So I'm going to tuck into my palm so you can see. So you will want to first have your student take a deep cleansing breath. So inhale and exhale through the mouth. And once they've done that, it's kind of settling. Have them do this in a seated position. I'm standing right now, but you'll want them to either take an easy cross-legged seat if that's comfortable for them, or sit upright on a chair, maintaining neutral balance. So not too far backward and not too far forward in the chair. So you'll have the student take their thumb and put it on their nostril, depending on which hand. So mine's on my right nostril. And then their pinky and 4th finger will go on their left nostril, or the opposite one. So you're going to start by inhaling through the left, closing off the right. Then plugging the left, exhaling out the right. No, plugging the right, exhaling out the left. Inhaling in the left, plugging it, exhaling out the right. Inhale on the right, plug it, exhale out the left. And you can have them do that 2 or 3 times at first. You can build it all the way up to 5, but start slow. This practice can be really grounding and can also help balance. It's said to help balance the left brain and the right brain, so the logic and the creativity side. So 1 full round is inhale right, plug, exhale left, inhale left, plug, exhale right. So you can repeat that 2 or 3 times at first. For me, that really helps calm me down, especially if I'm feeling really anxious. So the second breath practice is Kapalibati, or breath of fire. So this has been known to reduce symptoms of depression, or if you're feeling really tired or lethargic, it can be really energizing. So what you're going to want to do is take a cleansing breath again. So inhale and exhale out the mouth. And you're going to have the student take one of their hands, maybe their dominant hand again, and put it kind of on their belly. And then this one is going to be a series of forceful exhales, and the inhales will come in naturally. So I'm going to demonstrate it first, and then I'll explain a little bit more. So take an inhale, and then you're going to exhale 5 times really quickly. So it's kind of like little puffs of air, and you should, if you have your hand on your belly, you should feel it contracting. So we'll just do this 2 more times, and again, start slow. It's not recommended to do this if you have really high blood pressure or if you're feeling super anxious. So if you're having any of those symptoms, skip over this one. So inhale again, and 5 times. Okay, and then inhale 1 more time, and exhale. Great. And then the third breath practice that you can teach students, this one is really cooling and really calming. So if you are feeling anxious, this is a really good practice to implement, especially before performances or before lessons if students tend to get nervous. So this is called Shitali, or the cooling breath. If you can roll your tongue like that, you will want to inhale through the rolled tongue, seal your lips, and then exhale through the mouth. If you can't, don't worry about it, because some people just genetically cannot roll their tongue. So the other option is to inhale through the corners of your mouth like you have 2 straws. So kind of like you're sucking in air through the 2 straws, sealing, exhaling out your nose. So you should feel a really cool sensation inside your mouth either way that you do this. So you can just teach your students 3 to 5 rounds, and we'll start by taking in a cleansing breath. Inhale the nose, exhale out the mouth. So now you're going to either roll your tongue or suck in through the sides. So I'll be rolling my tongue. Inhale, seal the lips, exhale out the mouth. We'll do 2 more times. Seal, exhale out the nose. I meant the nose, I think I said mouth. Okay, 1 more time. Seal, exhale out the nose. So if you have any questions on any of these breath practices, feel free to send me an email. All 3 of them are great to teach your students, and they have been proven to help reduce stress and symptoms of anxiety and also depression. So they are really beneficial, and if you want, you can try and integrate them into a daily practice. If you have a meditation practice or a mindfulness practice in the morning where you just sit and reflect for about 10 minutes, it can be really helpful to do all 3 in a row. It can be just really grounding and energizing right before you start that practice. Or you could even try it before a practice session and let me know how it goes. And finally, another common cause of performance-related injuries or pain in music students includes practicing inefficiently and an increase of stress or a sudden increase in playing the instrument. You can find my efficient practicing template along with the presentation details for this presentation, and you may consider dedicating half of a lesson or more to teaching students good ways to practice based on these recommendations. As private instructors, be aware of external stressors students may be facing when assigning things to practice or homework for the next lesson. Try to cultivate an open and honest environment where the student feels comfortable talking to you about stressors in their life. Encourage students to tell you right away if they are experiencing any kind of pain while playing. Now we will go over a brief overview of things to watch out for with woodwind players relating to their playing posture. Technical demands of woodwind players make them highly susceptible to injury. RSIs, or repetitive strain injuries, are especially common in flutists. Due to the asymmetrical nature of the instrument, flutists are especially vulnerable to the development of performance-related injuries. Be sure to give plenty of breaks during rehearsals, and also strive to take a brief break every 15 to 20 minutes of playing during lessons, especially if the student has been playing consistently. Maintaining a neutral wrist position while playing is essential for woodwind players. To find this, you can have the student rest their forearm on a table and curl their fingers under their hand. This indicates their neutral position and should contribute to their hand position. You can also teach balance points on the instrument, which helps avoid gripping. And for the flute, these balance points are the right hand thumb, the left hand index finger, and where the head joint touches the bottom of the lip. The student should be able to balance the instrument using just these points and move their fingers freely in this position. Instrument modifications are a great method to reduce pain symptoms with flutists. So these can include a curved head joint for smaller flutists, a prima thumb rest, thumb port, bow pep, finger saddle, or thumb guide, flute gels, and key extensions, which are also an option made by several flute makers, and Flute Lab and Bertram vertical and swan head joints with straps for severe performance-related injuries. Now we will be going through return to play suggestions based on the current Performing Arts Medicine Association recommendations for injured students. So we will first discuss the impact of an injury on a student musician. All of their bodily systems are affected. The student tends to go through phases of grief and loss around this injury. They may experience identity and self-perception issues, and their musculoskeletal capacities are diminished and vulnerable. The student's injury may also have an impact on the teacher. The teacher may feel a sense of guilt that they missed something, or their student did not tell them about their pain earlier. The teacher plays an essential role in designing and implementing a return-to-play strategy in collaboration with the student's healthcare team. Teacher involvement and support at this time is very important. The teacher should encourage early attention and medical consultation and care of the issue. Teachers should also send students for medical consultations if they have new pain that does not go away with rest, or recurring pain that has not diminished within 2 weeks and may include tingling, numbness, or motor control difficulties. For short-term injuries, the first response protocols include PRICE, which is protect, rest, ice, compression, and elevation. If this process does not remove discomfort, seek medical attention. If it does help alleviate discomfort, after 72 hours, proceed to MICE, which is move, ice, compression, and elevation. Remove offensive movement or force application, which means identify where the pain is being triggered and eliminate this movement for the time being. The student should stop practicing or significantly decrease practice time and intensity. Off the instrument, the student should modify activities to minimize repetitive or augmented pain response. In general, this entails decreasing loads on the injured extremity segment. For long-term injuries, this requires multifaceted support and can place a greater emotional strain on the student. At this time, the teacher must remind the student that their health is the most important issue in the long term. The student must take the time now to rest and recover completely without haste and hurry. Remind the student that this is incredibly common. Maintain a regular lesson time, which is critically important, and make alternative assignments that do not involve playing, such as score study with recordings, research on composers and performers, and so on. In this case, the return-to-play method needs to be collaborative with healthcare professionals. The primary need of the student is to increase tissue capabilities while maintaining on-the-instrument coordinative abilities and musical identity. Now we will briefly go through a gradual return-to-play strategy. Phase 1 is the pre-repertoire stage, which means initial contact back with the instrument, which should be rehabilitative and therapeutic. This should include an ease of movement, mid-range movements, and short amounts of time back to playing, no more than 2 to 5 minutes per day total. Ergonomic adjustments to the instrument can be very beneficial at this time, such as the addition of thumb rests, left hand supports, or maybe even vertical or swan head joints. You must minimize any motion outside the mid-range, and the student cannot return to normal. Gradually increase the daily load awareness and suggest adjustments. Monitor movement of the injured area in daily activities, and encourage the student to do so as well. Phase 2 is repertoire graduation. Here, the teacher must choose repertoire that is musically engaging without undue physical effort. Repertoire should not use movements or techniques requiring maximal effort or cause strain, so you should begin with slow, short pieces. Gradually reintroduce higher effort repertoire, but continue to carefully monitor the movement. Here you can introduce practice organization and efficient learning strategies, which can be found on my efficient practicing template in the presentation details. Phase 3 will begin when the student has reached 40 to 50 minutes of total playtime per day. All parameters of practice and rehabilitation repertoire still apply. Be aware of overenthusiasm to practice. Decreased attention to practice time and intensity can cause a setback in the student's recovery process. The initial pieces here should be short, and try to look for pieces of musical depth and beauty without extensive physical work. So this all sounds very overwhelming, but ideally it will be a collaboration between yourself, your student, and the student's healthcare professionals. As a teacher, it is our role and responsibility to support our students back to health. We need to empower the students by letting them know they have control over their return to play strategy and encourage them to gain understanding of their tissue health, mental health, and daily tissue capacity, what to do if their pain increases, the genesis of their injury, and keeping a weekly pain log documenting how they feel as they proceed through their return to play recovery period. Now we will discuss the importance of music educators and private teachers to take care of their physical and mental health. Ways you can do this include making sure you have a good ergonomic setup at your desk for sitting for prolonged periods of time. So you may consider purchasing a lumbar support pillow or place a pillow behind your back on your chair for additional support. It's recommended to place your computer at eye level and maintain a neutral spine position throughout the day without craning your neck forward to see your screen. And also be sure you're not leaning too far back or too far forward, that your spine is in a nice balanced position with your head directly over your shoulders. You can also maintain a regular exercise regimen in a way that works for you. Regular cardiovascular exercise is a great method of injury prevention and can be as simple as going for long walks. Practicing yoga or Pilates are both great methods of building strength while cultivating bodily awareness and stretching. Commit to the practices you are teaching your students. Implement efficient practicing strategies. Take frequent breaks while practicing. Create a habit of warming up physically and musically before each practice session. Practice mindfulness and kindness towards yourself. And indulge in rest, even if just for 5 minutes between lessons. You may also consider making some time each night for some reflection. This could include journaling your thoughts, worries, and fears, 10 minutes of meditation, or a restorative yoga sequence that you can find online. So this is the end of my presentation. I wanted to give a huge thank you again to the Mid-Atlantic Flute Convention for having me as a presenter this year. I'm so excited to be here. And if you have any questions on anything I mentioned, please send me an email at francescaleo, francescaleo96 @yahoo.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Playing Without Pain, Facebook on my Playing Without Pain page, and also my website, www.playingwithoutpain.com, where I also have a contact form if you'd prefer to contact me through there. So thank you so much again. I hope you enjoyed and that this was helpful for you, and I look forward to meeting some of you in the future, hopefully.